your experience and your ability to cope with the emotional element of taking a loss like that and having yourselves pushed to the limit. Now, Quantic already banning out, actually going to give Bulldog one of his heroes if they want it. Quantic banning out the Lone Druid and the Keeper of the Light. And Io, however you pronounce it, it's going to be played by Alliance.
So for me, giving Alliance Wisp, probably one of the scariest things in the world, I'll be honest. I mean, that's a team who definitely loves to abuse it. They do ban the Keeper of the Light, though. That's one thing that's really important that we didn't actually get a chance to see in game number 1. Not that it actually mattered, because Goblak's draft was so good at abusing the hero in general, just by using Silent to tower dive him repeatedly, that he couldn't do anything. So when I see a Wisp picked up by Alliance, and I also feel as though Keeper of the Light's a good hero that Alliance use as well, I just kind of have to have trust in Goblak's draft, because he's just so unbelievably good at creating openings for maybe even a team like Alliance's strengths, but they did so well in game number 1, or excuse me, game number 2, but game 1, of course, in the arena. But I would even go as far as to say that that game was even, like, it was a bigger stomp, honestly, than the first way. So now Quantic are definitely feeling good about themselves. Alliance, I would be scared personally, but I don't think that they are, because, I mean, let's be honest, it's home turf. I'm sure there are tons of Alliance fans in the audience right now, and they want to see him take this 2-1, but I'm sure there's also a lot of Quantic fans too. So right now, Quantic, they got a Bat Rider. They're looking at one more.
The early pick phase, always tough to figure things out. Now, what we can talk, they're going to go ahead and grab the Gyrocopter, so 2 very, very typical picks so far. Quantic, of course, a non-typical team that does like to try creative things with established picks. Alliance going to respond, grabbing the Nature's Prophet. I was actually thinking that Quantic, even if they didn't particularly want to run him, might benefit from picking that Prophet away from Alliance after giving away the Io as well. Now here, whenever you're in Quantic's shoes, they didn't just accidentally forget to ban the Io. That's a deliberate decision, and they know that Alliance is very apt to first pick it. So in other words, when Quantic makes that decision, there is some underlying thought process behind it. There is some plan they have to abuse it. They're going to go ahead and enter the second ban phase now, taking out the CK. No surprise to see that. There are a lot of heroes that can work really well with an IO. One we've actually been seeing used recently. Not to say this is necessarily what's going to be picked, but just to show how unbelievably versatile the IO pick can allow your composition to be. We've seen Alliance use an Ursa before to really good effect. We've also seen Dragon Knights sometimes wind up as the hero to which the IO tethers. So Alliance has tons of options available to them. They're going to have a mass amount of global presence with the Nature's Prophet and the IO. So that's going to mean Quantic comes into this saying, that's fine. We're probably going to want to just 5-man team fight. And they've got 2 of the best heroes in the entire game for that with their first 2 picks.
Alliance, to me, it feels a bit greedy, man. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, Nature's Prophet and Wisp together, that's something that a lot of the other players in the tournament were saying, too. I had a chance to speak to a couple of people from a couple teams, and they're like, Alliance have a tendency to pick a bit greedy. Now, Chen and Nature's Prophet is something that they do a lot. So is Wisp and Nature's Prophet. They like to get those 2 heroes in conjunction. The problem with that is sometimes if you're able to pressure enough during the early game with heroes like Bat and Gyro and whatever else Quantic want to pick, you can punish that really hard, because it's difficult to actually just take full-on engagement. So Alliance, for the early part of the game, they're going to be trying to avoid as much aggression as they possibly can until Bulldog on that Prophet and, of course, the Wisp get to a point where they can really contribute in a big way. And to do that, they're going to need to give S4 a really big impact hero here in middle lane. So maybe they're potentially baiting out a couple of bans, like the CK and the Sven, as you said, very common with Wisp, but they could just be doing that so S4's hero is left open.
Absolutely, and that's what's one of the things that makes Alliance so damn hard to ban against, and just so hard to draft against in general, is the fact that they have so many players who are so high impact. I mean, even their support, EGM, he's probably the most overlooked of all of the players on Alliance, and he's phenomenal in his own right. He has games that he just flat out takes over, and that's part of what gives Alliance their success. As a 5-man unit, they tend to play very patient Dota, they tend to be very relaxed in their game style, and they will just take their time and try to methodically grind their way to a win. But in any given match, be it Bulldog, be it Loda, be it even, again, an EGM, who I've had the pleasure of casting some amazing games with him, even on the Windrunner, just making great plays from that position. They always have that in their back pocket, and it just depends on who happens to be hot that day. Quantic actually going to go ahead and show us an Undying pick. Undying, still a very viable hero. We just don't see him quite as often as we used to. But, again, I mentioned it whenever we saw the IO and the Nature's Prophet. Quantic coming into this, the plan has to be team fight. Has to be 5-man, has to be aggression. Because otherwise, with the Prophet, with the IO and relocate, that leaves them open to be ganked. And this is the old discussion of, well, why didn't the Chinese ever used to ban IO? We're beginning to see that change, by the way. But when they didn't, it was because they felt strong just in their positioning. And that's exactly the success that Quantic is going to be trying to replicate here in game number 3.
The Undying pick for me is just kind of solidifying what I was thinking earlier. They're going to try to brute force it. Like they say the Nature's Prophet, the West are like, yeah, we're just going to fight you like a lot.
Right.
And it's going to be hard because you have heroes who actually need levels and farm pretty badly. The puck is going to alleviate that somewhat, but still S4 is going to have to get level 6, 7-ish to really want to try to contribute to these fights. And not only that, but they have absolutely nothing to deal with Tombstone right now. Even just hitting the Tombstone for Alliance is going to be a hassle. Like, we've seen what happens when a team can't kill a Tombstone. You engage into it, and it's like, you shall not pass. And if you do, well, it's just zombie apocalypse, and it's a really bad time for you. So I do like Quantic's draft a little bit right here. I always like drafts that can just fight.
Right.
You never have a point in the game where you're like, oh, we can't defend this. You're like, oh, no, we can always fight you.
Right.
So anytime that Quantic picks something like that, it's going to be exciting for me to watch. But Alliance, it's not to say that in their last 2 picks, they can't compensate for their lack of early game presence right now. So we'll have to see what they do.
Well, I'll tell you what I love so much about the Undying and the way it fits into this lineup for Quantic in particular is the way that the Undying and the Gyrocopter work together. Namely, to start with, Gyrocopter is one of the few heroes that actually does kind of counter the Undying. The fact that Flat Cannon melts down all the zombies as they spawn while it's active. So having them both on the same team means there's no hardcore counter to the Undying to worry about. But then you have the slows that are associated with Gyrocopter and Undying. Gyrocopter throwing down the call down. If it catches targets, they're slowed. Undying zombies from the zombie house, as you so affectionately call it, the Tombstone, that slows them down. And then you have the AoE burn damage from the Bat Rider with Firefly. They're going to go ahead and grab themselves a Shadow Demon. Beautiful pickup. And what makes that one so strong in particular is the way it can disjoint the relocate gank. So right now, Quantic, I mean, the weird thing is, it seems like we've said this all 3 games, though. Game 1, Quantic had a very strong team fight, said, hey, this is going to be tough for Alliance. They're going to get run over if they're not careful. Alliance picks it apart. Game 2, the complete opposite. Alliance has this unbelievably strong, well-balanced lineup, and Quantic able to, again, with a Surgeon's dexterity, just utterly dismantle it piece by piece, beginning in the laning phase. And now in Game 3, a very similar look. One team has drafted a composition that wants to fight and fight often, while the other feels a little bit thin.
Well, to be honest, the difference between the first and the second games, the first game, what Quantic did was they picked a really strong teamfight composition, and they didn't actually fight with their whole team.
Right.
And that's what allowed Alliance to get into a position where they were able to come back because they were playing 4v5, and Alliance had 5, and Quantic had 4 because they never played with the Darkseers. So that was kind of like an execution and decision-making mistake. But for the second game, they still had a team that could fight all the time and abuse them, and they actually did it.
Right.
Like, they didn't just do it half-assed. They went in, they got the kills they were supposed to get, they killed S4 mid, they made Ake pretty much miserable, I'm sure, on that Keeper of the Light. So this game, they have, I think, probably maybe on par, about the same potential to punish as they did in game 1, probably slightly more actually. But Alchemist is a great choice because it's a carry who can actually fight if necessary, and he's extremely tanky.
Absolutely. And, you know, when you look at this, I mean, Quantic, though, Quantic has the potential to offensively tri-lane this, depending on what they want to pick up next. I mean, the Bat Rider usually, I mean, anymore, and we've talked to this to death, really, and we've seen it over and over so far here at DreamHack. Bat Rider, for the most part, is a hero that's most often considered to be in the offlane or in the jungle anymore. He's certainly an effective mid when he is there. In fact, we saw him there not long ago, just a game ago. But still, a hero that does wind up very often in the offlane. So if they wanted to do something like that, solo safe the Bat, run an offensive tri-lane, Gyrocopter, Shadow Demon, Undying can work that way, or they can run the Bat mid, solo safe the Gyro, and then build an offensive tri-lane around the Undying. The Shadow Demon +1, a Luna, for example, would give them a lot of damage in that tri-lane and would allow them to play very aggressively against what Alliance. I mean, right now, they just have the IO and the Alchemist. That's not a particularly scary lane to try to engage into. And even if Alliance, depending on what they pick up here, I don't see it getting a whole lot better, especially, again, if they decide to land themselves a Luna. That's just going to be so hard for a melee hero to come within creep range to get his CS. Alchemist, of course, very reliant on early game items, needs to get off to a good start, get up an item like a Shadow Blade if he wants to fight early. And Quantic just goes more all in on the AoE. Warlock, going to be the 5th pickup for Quantic. Their composition is now complete. And when I look at how they're going to lane this, I mean, they're pretty ambiguous. They can do a lot of things with this. The Warlock can work in mid. Alliance is actually going to pick a Chen. Wow, so seeing that Chen come out, they've got the global presence of the Prophet and the IO. Man, does this lineup feel a little bit thin.
Yeah, Alliance are going to have to play this perfectly. Like, honestly, if the Warlock Gets a good start, and it is going to be played by Funzy, so I'm assuming that's probably going to be mid. They're going to have a tri-lane with the Undying, Gyro, Shadow Demon, and then another solo, and it's going to be Sakshka either in the off lane or the safe lane, depending on how Quantic want to play this out. But when you see a Wisp, Alchemist, Chen, you're like, why wouldn't you just lane against them? I mean, I feel like that lane is pretty easily punishable in the situation, so we'll see. I mean, Alliance obviously know what they're doing. They're in the finals, so I'm not just going to say that their draft is a little bit weaker, but I feel as though if Quantic get to like around level 6 in the Warlock, of course, they get Sakshka, even a decent start, and he can lasso the puck, how do you win that fight if you're Alliance?
Well, I mean, just looking at their lineup, unless they just flat out get so far ahead of Quantic, Quantic's lineup just in and of itself with its own abilities, just the Tombstone, just the Chaotic Offering, just Gyrocopter's Call Down and Rocket Barrage, that right there is an overwhelming amount of damage that Alliance has to cope with. And what do they have? They have an IO that's a ranged creep. They have a Nature's Prophet that's not much better until he gets up a handful of items, gets up a Midas and a Shadow Blade. They have a Puck who has one decent AoE magic nuke in the Waning Rift. He can do a little damage with the Orb if he's very, very lucky. And they have a little damage off of Alchemist. The Chen is not going to be contributing a whole lot outside of just grabbing some creeps. And you know, as good as Chen is, don't get me wrong, I'm not underwriting the hero, but running into a lineup like this that just thrives when things get crowded, the Undying Tombstone, I mean, the synergy of it all, we're not even going to get to finish that as there's a disruption onto the IO. EGM going to tether up and make it away. There's an unstable concoction that locks 2 down, so Alliance able to dodge the bullet, pulling back up under their tier 2. For right now, and it looks like we're not going to have any more action, at least for the moment. Let's go ahead and take a run through our lineup, see who's handling who. Starting out with Quantic, the captain, Gold Black. Beautiful draft so far. We'll see if they can make it work for them as well as it did in Game 2. There's going to be Funzy handling the Warlock. Sakshka going to be playing on the Bat Rider, so Funzy does look like he's going to be setting up shop in mid, and they are going to offensively tri-lane this, so they're not going to be farming the solo farming the Gyro. They're actually going to be giving that priority to the Bat Rider. I don't mind that. I pointed out that could happen, but really would have liked to have seen perhaps the Gyro down there just for a little bit more stability, but hey, who said Quantic has to play stable when you got a Weaver that can get 25 kills on the drop of a hat? Bucking Mad going to be playing on our Shadow Demon with Gyro, farmed up, no surprise, by the star of game number 2, the owner of the only Rampage we've seen so far, Silent. On the other side of the river, we got S4 playing on one of his favorite heroes, the Puck, setting up shop in mid. Chen, no surprise, another marquee player with another marquee hero. That's going to be Aki playing on the Chen. Alchemist going to be handled by Loda. When this pick came out, there was actually a little bit of a cheer that went up in the crowd, so the viewers very, very happy to get a look at Alchemist. And, of course, EGM going to be handling the IO with Nature's Prophet by a star of Game 1. That's going to be Admiral Bulldog going one-on-one with that Bat Rider. So as these lanes take shape, this is kind of what I thought could be problematic. They didn't have to pick the Luna or anything else. They still got a ranged hero on the Gyro. We can see Alchemist currently sitting at 3-0, but how they handle themselves in this tri-lane really going to dictate so much of how aggressive or defensive they have to play in the mid-game.
Yeah, Loda's going to be having a bad time. I think that's pretty much this lane in a nutshell. They're going to need a really good creep to actually apply enough pressure with this Chen to make the Chen pick even worth it in the early game, and they are going to be able to D-ward, at least kill the sentries. So I'm not sure how useful this Hellbear Smasher is going to be in the very early stages, considering the lane's already pushing. So Quantic, as long as they keep the lane stable here, the Chen's really not going to be able to do a whole lot, and considering there are 2 range creeps, I don't think it's going to be too difficult, but they do get 1 single pull, so I guess Alliance will eventually be able to pull it back. But in terms of mid, I think that Funzy is going to be doing fine against Puck. Puck eventually is a little bit scary, but a Warlock that goes for Fatal Bonds and heal should really never die in the 1v1, and likewise bottom. The only hero who's going to be in danger of dying here is Bulldog if he gets a little bit too cocky. So honestly, I would probably give 2 of these 3 lanes to Quantic. Mid is probably the only one where I feel it could technically go either way, but that's also going to depend on rune. So if S4 gets like a good rune, maybe he can get a kill. If not, I think Funzy might even win this too.
Yeah, Funzy already, we saw in mid, harassing down the puck quite effectively. That's a very important matchup as well. When you play that Warlock, to give him any sense of longevity at all, you really want him to have a shot at getting a Scepter up at a decent clip. We saw Demon from EG get one up, and sad thing about that was he managed to get the Scepter up and never got to use it afterwards. He was just so well-focused fire. Now they're going to try to engage on the Silent. Unstable Concoction is there. Down goes the Acid Spray. Silent chases him into the side shop. He's cornered in. He's stunned out. He's going to be our first blood. And Loda able to not just get 1, they get 2 out of it. They get the first blood and also tack on the kill on the Shadow Demon. And Alliance, off to the start they want and they need, punishing this aggressive tri-lane of Quantic. And all of a sudden, They're trailing just when they don't want to be. With everything on the line here on the main stage.
That was really awkward, like his positioning, and that was really strange, and everyone was kind of just spread out, and they let themselves get run into. That was like, I don't even know, like that was just strange. But still really good for Alliance, the fact that they just get 2 kills instead of 1. I thought even just killing Silent would have been great. I don't even think that getting the 2nd kill would have been necessary. I feel like Lotus still would have been relieved at that point and been able to get some farm, but they still haven't actually dewarded, so they're still going to have their creep camp blocked at the moment. But the problem is now, is that there are a lot more experience on these supports. Like EGM is very close to level 3, and Ake is level 3, which means level 2 Test of Fate. Those Chen ganks are going to be a lot more threatening now, and they need to be really careful about how they position in lane, because if they go again, it'll be dangerous.
They're going again. They're going to throw it out. Unstable concoction. Caught Silent. There's a Centaur to follow it up. Soul Rip, not enough. Test of Fate makes it 3-0. Bucking Mat's going to make it 4-0. And Alliance absolutely seizing control of this game, wasting no time. They've gotten a first blood and 3 more kills in less than 5 minutes. Quantic's aggression blowing up in their face just like a well-aimed unstable concoction. Great plays, great communication, and great decision-making from this Alliance squad.
It's just really nice to see their coordination and how they go about getting ganks off. The weird thing was he actually disrupted the Alchemist instead of disrupting the person the Alchemist was going to stun.
Yeah.
Because if you do that, it's like, even if the stun channel is down, you're not actually going to stun Loda. And even if you do get stunned, you can disrupt the person and the stun's gone when it comes back up. And that's a huge chunk of their damage. It's not like the Wisp and just a Chen Creeper are going to kill you.
Right.
And then you have other heroes who can turn around and potentially fight. So interesting choice actually there by fucking Mad. But the tri-lane going so well is kind of the saving grace right now for Alliance, because if you look at the Batrider, he's 29-5.
Yep.
And the Nature's Prophet has 9 CS. So this lane needs to win.
Absolutely. And yeah, like you said, looking at the CS, you want to talk about a bat that's off to a good start. And don't see him solo mid quite so often. Usually a lot more heroes, especially just with the current popularity of heroes like Puck in particular, he tends to wind up in solo safe or solo off. And this time definitely working. Poor Bulldog. And you know, this actually, and I've seen this happen before to Bulldog, he can play very well from behind, but the problem is he's such an aggressive playmaking hero, or excuse me, player by his own nature, especially on this hero's Nature's Prophet, that you know, it does throw him out of his rhythm a little bit, and that's something that can be problematic with Alliance. Again, we've talked about it during pre-games and during the analysis sections of our show so far throughout this weekend. If there's any way you can reliably go after Alliance and feel like you actually have a game plan, it's just to disrupt their rhythm. Don't let them dictate the pace of the game. Don't let them dictate how the map takes shape, the flow of the map, the flow of the game. And one good way to do that is to take Bulldog out. So with him playing from behind, he's just level 5 as well. So even 2 levels behind now, a full 2 levels, I should say, behind that Batrider. The top 2 levels on the board do belong, of course, to Quantic. So even though they're being beaten up a bit in terms of kills, they aren't losing absolutely everything.
Well, they're kind of crushing in CS, which is pretty much the only reason why this game is even okay for them at the moment. In all honesty, the way the lane started for Quantic was an absolute disaster. Like, their whole intention of going top was to prevent Loda from getting anything, and instead, he ends up getting a kill. His CS is still 13, which isn't spectacular. The Gyrocopter is actually ahead of him by a decent margin, almost doubling, and only 6 minutes into the game, so that's nice. But they really need to cut their losses and stop dying. Like, you can't let what's been happening happen again. And Ake is actually starting to move around now, and he does have a Dark Troll Warlord, so it should be a pretty decent game.
Looked like there was a TP coming in. He thought better of it, decided not to join. And here comes Ake, gonna rush up the steps. Who are they gonna find? Loda tosses the unstable concoction. He got 2! They're gonna get them both free of charge, and now Silent in trouble as well. Forced back under his own tower. The TP comes in. Funzy's there, and now there's a coil, the reinitiation. Funzy jumped on by Escort, got off the waiting rift. An absolute disaster under this tier 1 top. Alliance improves it to 8-0. Are you kidding me? They could not have played it better. We said during the pregame, Draskyl, with this lineup against what Quantic had drafted and the potential they were going to have, they had to play it perfectly, and thus far, they damn well have. 8 kills in 7 minutes.
Unbelievable, man. Okay, Funzy tried to ult like 19 times, and every single time he was mid-animation, he got stopped by something. He got stopped by Tether, he got stopped by the Puck Coil, he got stopped by Silence. I mean, there was so many things that stopped him from being able to use Chaotic Offering, and eventually, I think he just gave up. I think he was like, all right, I'm just going to take my hands off my keyboard because I never get to use my character. But still, like, that coordination, stopping it that many times, completely insane.
8-0 again. I mean, we're at 7.5 minutes in. I usually want to wait until 10 to take our first look at the gold grab, but the hell with it. Let's see how bad the damage is. That's the amazing part, though. Despite it being 8-zip, just on the back of those CS that you were talking about, the CS lead that they've generated, it's not all that out of control. So this is just another one of those good examples of why kills matter, but they only matter in terms of what they free up elsewise. The kills, yes, the gold's nice. The first blood was certainly nice. But given the situation everywhere else, I mean, Quantic is actually pushing in this tier 1. So Alliance, though, but making all the plays and getting us on our feet, the grinded out aspects, the mechanics, the small things, still in favor of Quantic enough to keep this game at least within reach, if not within their favor.
Well, we both kind of figured that when we saw the draft, the laning phase was going to go for Quantic because of the fact that their heroes are just better in lane. Like, they just picked better lanes. But the thing is, they're dying in their better lanes. Of course, the Batrider didn't die, and mid didn't die either. But mainly, it's just been top. It's been an utter disaster. So the thing is, the CS on the side of Alliance is still abysmally low. They're actually just playing like 5-man Dota right now with their team. Loda gets the last hit on the tier 1 tower, and I guess they're going to be split pushing bottom too, but I don't think Quantic really cares so much about that. They're just going to go for the tier 2 in the top lane, but the push isn't really going to be that fast because unlike Alliance, they don't have a Chen and a Nature's Prophet, so split pushing, especially when S4 has a DD, I don't really think this is actually that efficient for them, but we'll see.
And the Glyph's going to be off cooldown soon. They may have it. It's going to be close. No, never mind. I was looking at the wrong tower. But one team will have Glyph off cooldown soon enough. Nonetheless, they take down yet another tower. Take down 2, actually. Tier 1 mid and the tier 1 bottom. So right now, I mean, Alliance is trading away what they can. They're going to end up losing their tier 2 top as well. They have 4 towers still standing. Same is the case for Quantic, so the map control roughly even. The big difference, though, and you talk a lot about this, the importance of that mid-tier 1. Mid-tier 1 does just make such a difference, so Alliance having that one standing helps them out a little bit. They're not done, though, man. They're going to push on through, and I think you're right. I mean, you said it kind of in a sardonic way, but really they're just playing 5-man Dota. They're not going to worry about farming Loda. They feel good about the push potential their lineup has, and Quantic's not even going to try to respond to this. They're spread out everywhere else across the map, only 2 in the vicinity of this tier 2, but none willing to do anything to keep it standing.
The reason why they're okay with this is because their team is supposed to do this. This is what their team is meant for. They were supposed to push at some stage in the game. And because of the fact that they had 8 kills to start off, they also have an experience lead. So trading towers when you have an experience lead and you've been fighting well, and a team who needs money more than your opponent, why not? I mean, honestly, that actually benefits Alliance more than anything else, especially considering they got an extra tower, whereas Quantic right now are kind of grouping up. It looks like they want to try to maybe smoke and make something happen, but no blink to aggregate on Sakshka, so it's going to be a little difficult, but I think Quantic have started to realize, hey, we need to play to our strengths and actually try to fight.
A very key item just completed. That's the mechanism complete on the chin. They're going to just drop the rock right on S4. He's going to phase shift out of that and jump away. Very nice play, dodging the damage, and wow, that golem is not looking too scary. Taking a lot of tower damage. He's not really going to be around to fight unless they pull back and he heals up. And for right now, Alliance back in shape and ready to defend the tower. But the net worth is actually skewed completely the other direction. S4's got his eye on Solskjaer. Let's see if he can make something happen. He's got a lot of time left on this invis. If he's waiting on some kind of reaction from his teammates, he will have the coil done soon. Relocates there for IO as well, by the way. We haven't even talked a lot about that. There's the coil, and here comes the TP gank. And a little bit confused there. Alchemist isn't going to get there in time. He stuns himself. Somehow got tangled up in the pathing. So what should have been look, he's trapped. He just finally manages to get out. So not the most well-placed reload gank I've ever seen. And Loda, that's a head smack there, brother.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was actually AJM's fault. Like, there's nothing Loda could have done about that. He maybe could have. Did he have anything to eat a tree? No. Oh, he did. He had tangos. So yeah, he could have eaten the tree just fine. Maybe they were expecting the Batrider to like go down. I don't know. But that was a really, really awkward relocate, to say the least. So still not that big of a deal for Alliance. They're doing okay. They're starting to catch up in CS now, which is very dangerous for Quantic because this Warlock hasn't hit a creep basically in the last 5 minutes of the game. He had 33 CS, I think, roughly, maybe even like 30 when he left the lane. And then he started walking around and trying to use Chaotic Offering, and the one hero that he hit didn't really like care about it at all. And they didn't even kill the tower either. Like, sometimes it's okay to drop a Chaotic Offering if you know you're going to push a tower anyway, but they didn't even do that. They just dropped it. They like almost died, and they were like, well, crap, we can't do anything. So Alliance still in a very commanding position here in game number 3. And not only do they lead pretty big in experience, but they're going to start leading in gold a lot more. They're pushing into the tier 1 top. And as it stands right now, Goblak, he can TP. Looks like they might want to fight this.
Bucky Mads there, and Loda ready to fight as well. There's the Batrider, going to lasso Loda back, bringing him back under. This will be a key kill for them. Call down's going to be there as well with the coil. The coil got damn near everyone. They're going to re-engage off of it. And Alliance cleans up 3. They're not done. Still going to work. Funzy denies the tower, but loses his life. That's full 5. All 5 are gone. Only 2 towers still stand, and 1 not standing for long. Alliance is hanging a goose egg on their opposition here in the grand finals. You want to talk about a perfect performance. We said it during the pregame, Draskyl. They had to run it to perfection if they wanted to stand a chance against this lineup. Pretty sure 13-0 is as perfect as it's gonna get.
I don't know. This alliance doesn't look beatable. Like,
no.
This alliance plays way, way too good. Outside, of course, that one little relocate incident that we'll probably just forget about because, let's be honest, the rest of the game, like seriously, the rest of the game, they've been playing unbelievably well. Quantic just got so badly out of position in the top lane to give away those kills, and after you give away a few, and the Alchemist gets to like level 3 or 4, because of the fact that he wasn't going greed, he was going spray and concoction, the ganks were actually that much stronger. They had extra physical damage coming out, the creeps were hitting harder, and they pretty much abused the fact that Quantic felt safe in that lane. Quantic felt like they should have won that lane, and honestly, after seeing how it played out, they had to have played it a little bit more passively, like clearly, because they were getting picked off repeatedly. So now, it's like Quantic, strangely enough, still have the 2 highest CSers in the game right now, but top lane.
And here comes EGM just on his lonesome, just to get the Tether Stun off. They managed to get the kill. Not your most traditional relocate gank, but he's actually going to be able to head back to safety momentarily. 14-0. Alliance, just mean, man. At this point, they're just piling it on and padding the stats. Let's take a look. It's hard to believe we're 15 minutes into this game. They've averaged a kill without any reprisal whatsoever, unanswered. Now this might change. EGM going to be lassoed back. Can they finally make their way onto the board? No, EGM tethers up. There's the mech, and he's able to relocate. So, still coming up short without a single kill to their name. But 15 minutes in, it's 14-0, and they're going to group up and look to make something happen. While they're, looks like they're going to go ahead and pull back, maybe thinking of Roshan, while they make up their minds one way or the other. Let's take a look at the gold. There it is. 10,000 gold they've generated in pure lead in the first 15 minutes of this game, and the same in experience. I mean, again, how much more can you say? The Shadow Blade's up on Loda. He's feeling even more dangerous than ever. The top 4 heroes in terms of net worth all belong to the same team. And yeah, no surprise, it's the team with the kills.
I don't know, man. Quantic, I feel like, I don't know, this game, I don't even have words for it, man. Like, I saw the draft, I'm like, man, Alliance are picking really greedy this game.
They were.
And they played it perfectly, so I can't really fault them for it. And like I said at the beginning, Alliance are here for a reason. Apparently they can pick super greedy and make it work, so power to them. Quantic, at least get a kill. Like, come on. Like, you can do it, I believe. Just make it happen. Honestly, though, Quantic, they still have ridiculously good team fight. That's the one thing that they can fall back on always, is if they do get a good chaotic offering, a good call down, and of course Fatal Bonds is there with Undying's Tombstone. As crazy as it sounds, they might actually still be able to win some fights. It's just going to be a heck of a lot harder now, because everyone on the side of Alliance is like massively farmed.
Well, I'll tell you what's terrifying is the fact that Alliance, if they want to play aggressive, which it looks like they do, they can certainly do this and they can do it confidently. But anytime they start to feel like maybe they're giving something back, they're just going to be able to strangle this map away from Quantic. They have absolute map control. They still have 4 of their own towers remaining, 2 tier 1s still standing. There's a coil actually going to catch, just caught Funzy, and he's going to be cleaned up. Soul Rip not enough. Call down's going to be there. They're going to lasso Loda back. Loda feeling very tanky, even up under the opponent's tier 3. He rejoins with his team. Flame Break does some AoE damage, but with the healing effects from the Chen, okay. Don't think he used Hand of God there. He may have. Yeah, he did. Okay. Couldn't remember. I saw the mech go off. Wasn't sure if Hand of God was involved. But still able to heal his team up. That's 2 more kills, by the way, added to the tally. And Loda, why are you hitting yourself? Stop hitting yourself, Loda. He's going to bounce back and be ready to fight again. Tier 3, under assault, and what can they do? They blew everything there, by the way. They blew the call, and now the silence going to catch him again. He face shifts again, and S4 is going berserk. They drop the rock. Maybe this is their chance to finally get a kill. S4, Bulldog, EGM all have to withdraw. And Bulldog just going to TP away in their face. S4 trying to jaunts away from the auto attack. Gets the silence off. Here's Loda. Now going to go back to work on Solskjaer. And the goal of chasing him down. They still haven't lost anyone. Gyro's bought back. He's going to be cleaned up again. Still no one has died. Are you kidding me? It's a perfect game.